Hello, my name is Lisa Chizek, and I've been an elementary teacher for many years. And I was asked by the Iowa STEM Council to make a video about a STEM investigation that you can do at home with your children at home. And I'm also supposed to mention that I was a STEM Teacher Award recipient the very first year of the awards. So we are going to do an engineering a pancake recipe investigation with you. And I have my assistant here, Mason, who's going to help us out. But anyway, so part of the next generation science standards and part of STEM is doing engineering. And so part of an engineering design investigation that fit with some science that we were doing in 5th grade. They were learning about the characteristics and the properties of matter and learning about acids and bases and reactions. And I was trying to figure out a way to make all of that really meaningful and authentic for them. And so I came up with cooking. And so, you know, recipes have to start somewhere. So I start out, you know, just asking the kids to connect it to their prior knowledge and, you know, help them make connections. So what do you know about pancakes?
They're good to eat.
Okay, what else do you know? So they're good to eat.
In order to cook them, it has to be, a griddle has to be hot.
Okay.
Or something has to be hot.
All right, what else?
There are ingredients like water and mix or eggs or something.
Okay, all right. Okay, so where did recipes for pancakes come from? Where do recipes come from?
I think people that
Okay.
like want to make something like food and then they just put stuff together and make it.
Okay, so a lot of times students think that, you know, their answer for where do recipes come from, well, they come from the internet, or they come from a cookbook, or maybe mom knows what they are, but then you talk to them about, well, but where did the internet get them? Where did cookbooks, where did they come from before cookbooks? I mean, how did they get into the cookbook? So it really gets the kids thinking, you know, okay, where did they start from? And it does, so you know, brings in some connections where we can talk about how there are cooking labs where people have to go through and test different ideas so that they can come up with good recipes for different things. So we are talking about pancakes. We found out that Mason knows pancakes taste good, they need a heated griddle, they include ingredients, and they have a recipe that you follow. All right, so the next thing that we talk about is how do you know if a pancake is good or not? What kind of qualities does it need? What kind of characteristics does a good tasting pancake need?
Fluffy.
Okay.
And not burnt.
Okay, fluffy, not burnt.
Tastes good.
Tastes good when you taste it, okay. All right, so why don't you write those down? I have them write down the characteristics so that they know what they're looking for when they do their tests as they're doing their investigation, their engineering investigation. All right, so Mason says that pancakes need to be fluffy. They should taste good when you taste test them. They should not be burnt. So Mason, would you say like they need to be brown or they need to be golden brown? Golden brown? Okay, so why don't you write that down for another characteristic. All right, so we're looking for a fluffy pancake that's golden brown, that tastes good. Any other characteristic that's really important for a pancake?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, so what I have here is pancake mix, but I don't have the box, you know, sitting out so that they could look up the recipe right away. And oftentimes students don't even think to look on the box for the recipe. They're just ready to get to dig. For this engineering investigation, Mason is only going to be changing one variable as he does his testing to try and find a good recipe or a good ratio for a recipe. He has 2 ingredients. He's going to keep the amount of mix that he's using at 3 tablespoons each time, but he's going to be changing the amount of water that he adds to it. So that's what he's going to be investigating as he tries to find the best ratio for a good tasting pancake. So this pancake engineering investigation brings opportunities to learn about making sure that you're measuring accurately and you're going ahead and mixing right. All All right, and it brings up opportunities to talk about food safety and being clean. Make sure you keep your area clean. Make sure that you've washed your hands with soap before you're cooking. If you see your children, touching their face or anything like that, then you can just remind them to go ahead and go back over and wash your hands with soap. All right, so Mason, as you're cooking your pancakes, what kind of things do you notice?
I noticed that there's bubbles that are made and then they pop. And if I look under it, it gets a little golden and harder. Notice.
Okay, can you show us kind of what you're talking about? Okay. So you peek under there?
Yeah, it's not like the top of it better.
Okay. All right, so how's that pancake going?
Pretty good. I think it's done. So I don't know.
All right, bring it over here and do the taste test. What are the characteristics you're looking for in a good tasting pancake so that you'll know that you have found the best ratio for a good tasting pancake?
If it's really fluffy and it tastes good and it's not burnt at all and it's golden brown.
All right, so do you want to hold it up so the audience can see? So tell me about what you're noticing about it.
It's not really fluffy, it's really flat, and it's like white, like the batter, and not golden. And yeah.
Okay.
And I hope it tastes good.
All right, you want to go ahead and do a taste test? So he's saying that it's not fluffy at all. It didn't cook to a golden brown.
Still tastes pretty good.
Okay, all right. So it didn't meet all your criteria for a good tasting pancake?
No.
How's your next pancake going?
It's going good. I think it's done.
Why don't you bring it over here? Check it with the characteristics for a good tasting pancake. What do you think? What are the characteristics, just to remind us?
I think it needs to be fluffy and taste good, and it can't be burnt, and then it can, I want it to be golden brown so it tastes better.
All right, so do you want to kind of hold it up so the audience can see what it looks like? We're going to hold it sideways too so they can see like that. Okay, all right. So what criteria does it meet?
It is kind of golden brown, and it looks kind of fluffy, but I think it's more like fat, and probably maybe because I put too much mix in there, and that's why it's really big.
All right, you want to go ahead and give it the taste test?
It does not taste good.
Is it cooked all the way through?
No.
Or is there raw?
There is raw parts. And
Okay.
it's really sticky on the inside, and it kind of tastes like you're eating flour-ish type stuff.
All right, so you want to go ahead and try out your next ratio that you want to test. How's the cooking going on this pancake that you're making?
I think it's almost done.
All right, you want to check it against your criteria for a good tasting pancake?
Yep. So it looks really fluffy, and it's not really burnt, so that's good. And it's the perfect golden color that I want a pancake.
Okay, you want to give it a taste test. Do you want to hold it up so the audience can see what you're talking about? Okay.
It is fluffy and it tastes good, so that's, yeah.
Okay, so do you think you could make a claim about the ratio of ingredients you need for a good tasting pancake?
So I use 3 tablespoons of mix and 4 tablespoons of water, and I think that is a good ratio because this is like my perfect pancake.
Okay, so you have your evidence with that it was fluffy, that it was golden brown, that it tastes good. So this engineering design investigation helped make some real world connections for my students with some science that they had been doing with the next generation science standards, learning about the structures and properties of matter. After they did this, they went on, they figured out a good ratio for a good tasting pancake. Since there were multiple groups, they had opportunities for argumentation. backing up their claims with evidence so that we came to, a class consensus on what a good ratio was for a good tasting pancake. Then they also had different ideas about when you should flip a pancake, so they came up with different things that they wanted to test, maybe the check and peek, or flipping when it's starting to bubble, or flipping when it's all bubbly. They had all different kinds of ideas that they tested. And then after we spent some time doing that, we Skyped with a dietitian that we found through Iowa State University. She'd gone through their dietetics program, so that gave us an opportunity to have a connection with a career, but also the kids, brought their understanding, their learning to talk with a dietitian and learn about the purpose for the different ingredients in a pancake mix, in a pancake recipe, how to measure, how important it is to measure carefully when you're cooking with a recipe. And she also taught him the best time to flip a pancake. So anyway, I just wanted to, review again. This is really an important opportunity for students to learn about recipes and how they are developed. It gives them practical experiences, maybe even the first time, with opportunities for cooking and learning about the different tools you use for measuring. It also, if they weren't measuring accurately, they're going to have problems with yucky tasting pancakes, so they learn, that. And they're learning about how chemistry, maybe they've heard of chemistry before, but it's actually part of everyday life. And they're having practical applications with math, using different measuring, they might put different amounts of water into their recipes, so they have to, be working with fractions, 1/3 of a tablespoon, 1/3 of a teaspoon, something like that. They're also able to connect this with the science that they've been doing, learning about the interactions with the different ingredients, the acids and bases interacting, the soda, the vinegar, the soda, if you use buttermilk when you're doing scratch recipes, learning about how you take a liquid batter and when you heat it up, it changes into a pancake, so there's a chemical reaction right there. They're having authentic opportunities for making observations. They're noticing bubbles in the pancakes. They're noticing that fluffy pancakes taste better than thin pancakes, or they're really thick with too much batter in them. Later on, they were learning when the best time was to flip, and it gives them opportunities for documentation. They might be taking notes in their note. You might have your kids writing down data. He wrote down the characteristics for a good tasting pancake, but also, keeping track of what ratios didn't work and what ratio did turn out the best tasting pancake.Maybe they're drawing pictures of the thin pancake or the way too thick, gross pancake. So this is giving students an authentic opportunity to design experiments, to do experiments, to collect data, to analyze their data, to make claims with evidence, and then to communicate their understanding. So they're having opportunities to collaborate, to communicate, to create, and when they're working with another child, they are cooperating. Mason and I thank you, and we think that your kids will find this really engaging.